Right, so hello and welcome everybody to this Maclean's and CBC News collaboration show. We're starting off here today with dual elections in two of the world's biggest powers, the United Kingdom and the United States. The United States, after two full terms as president, Conor and Green, the American public is going to go ahead and elect either two candidates, Luke Down upon or Patrick Russo. Whoever it's going to be is up in the air at the moment. We're going to start off our show by talking about the the United States. We're going to talk about the election, we're going to talk about what's happening in the country. And first, we're beginning here today with a senator from the USA, George Kane, who will be asking a few questions. So, welcome to the stream, George. What can you tell us about yourself?
I'm currently a senator in EUSA at the moment. I also have served in the past as vice president and secretary of state within the group. And I have a long career, and I just actually voted in the election in the USA several minutes ago.
And who did you vote for exactly?
I voted for Patrick Russo in the election for the fact that LDU has held the presidency before, and it was rocky, and I don't think that he was a very effective leader. I also think that the policies that he put together throughout the duration of the election were very sloppy. On the other hand, I actually challenged Patrick in the Democratic primary. Him and I used to be bitter foes during the process. However, after reading his policies and having thorough discussion, I decided to vote for him instead of LDU.
Gotcha. Well, I can understand where you're coming from there, because from the looks of it in the USA at the moment, there's really two candidates, but they're both coming from establishment roots. Can you explain really what's going on in the country at the moment, and just really issues and the fact that there's no really new faces running?
Basically, from my perspective of this election, this is just another. These two candidates ran against each other, I believe, in December of 2015, and Patrick ran on a different account due to some issues that he was having, I assume, and LDU ended up winning that election by one vote. The overseer had to actually break the vote. That's why LDU ended up winning, because it was a tie, and it was a very close election. I think the reason why we see these two candidates instead of fresh faces is because, more or less, in my opinion, what happened was people within the establishment discouraged competition through the duration in the primary process, I believe. And LDU decided to run as an independent. However, he's more in line with the Republican Party. They decided to support him instead of putting their own candidate up. And I think LDU actually announced his candidacy for president at the beginning of President Green's second term. So he's been running his campaign for a very long time. However, he hasn't really had a whole lot of new ideas that he didn't bring up during the previous election that he ran in and won by one vote. I think the political climate in the USA right now is kind of stagnant. It would be nice if there was some change, because personally, this election wasn't very exciting for a lot of people, and not even for myself, especially whenever you have two people who've already ran in the past challenging each other. And it kind of was disappointing that we only had one debate between the presidential candidates and zero debates between the vice presidential candidates. I think that it would have been better for the electoral process had there been more debates that were actually scheduled but were for some reason canceled. So
I can fully understand where you're coming from here, because it's also kind of a similar situation in the UK, where you look at the candidates here, you have Tentacles leading the Labour Party, and obviously he's kind of, establishment-esque, and he's obviously led a party before, he's been in positions of power before, he's been in the cabinet before. But then on the other hand, before he quit Roblox, you had Ryan J. Major leading UKIP after the events that unfolded last term with George Montemore. And then, of course, the most establishment candidate of all, the candidate who's kind of always been in there, is the LUP leader, Jamie / Lord Galactica, who's just been that kind of person that's always been a presence in the UK no matter what, even after he abdicated the throne.
Yeah, I'm not very caught up with the electoral process in the UK. I believe after Shive or whatever, I can't even pronounce his name, is the leader of the Tories. And who's the UKIP leader? I think Ryan left.
The UKIP leader is a guy named Spaz. He was kind of unknown in the party prior to the election.
I think that I believe he was one of the gentlemen that was in Australia whenever that was a thing.
I think you're thinking of somebody else, but yeah, I was in Australia around that time. I don't remember him being there. But let's get on to another question. So you support Russo for president, and you're hoping he's going to win, and results are going to be announced tonight, obviously. We're going to cover that. But what policies are you a fan of the most out of Russo?
Personally, the reason why the winning factor for myself, as to why I decided to vote for Russo, has to be his foreign policy and his ability to reach out to people who, I mean, obviously didn't agree with him at all to begin with, and he plans on continuing the policy that I implemented within the State Department of the regional ambassadorships, reaching out to alliances as much as we possibly can, things like that. He also wants to host more events in DC, like President Green has, such as bill signings and server startups and stuff, to try to keep the group active. That's important. He wants to continue the progress that President Green has started with the military under the leadership of Mr. Ryan Hart and others that are in the military currently, trying to build that up. I think he's more of the candidate that's going to try to take what Connor has done during both of his terms and try to improve on the things that were kind of hiccups during the administration of Mr. Green, and also try to continue and progress forward with the policies that have already been implemented by this administration.
And I can fully understand why you're supporting him. Really, what I want to know here is, so you're supporting Russo, you think he's going to get more events at DC, you think he's going to do all this stuff, but really, there's a problem with EUSA, and there's the problem with the establishment there. You have two parties primarily, and it's always been the Democrats dominating, not the Republicans. Now, from what I heard, the Republicans may have a resurgence. But I think my question to you is here, are you supporting any independents or other parties? Like, are you looking outside the boundaries of just party lines? Are you not voting just among party lines? Are you voting for individual candidates, you think?
I typically never vote for people based off of party affiliation. Typically what I do is I sit and I look at the policies that those candidates support, and then I vote for the person who has the best policy that they wish to implement. The reason, in my opinion, the Democrats have dominated EUSA is because basically the process was founded in EUSA by Democrats whenever the group first started, and they've just kind of been the standard bearer. The Republicans had a comeback sometime last year. However, the Republican Party was controlled by a bunch of people who were actually liberal-minded individuals, so it ended up losing the election in the long run. I mean, the Republicans ended up downfalling.
Right, so your position in EUSA is quite an interesting one. What do you think can be done in the future to remedy the problems of not enough new faces in politics, not enough new people coming there in just the country? Ah, that might seem to go on. So, Odin, think you can contribute here?
Yeah, sure.
So, I'm gonna actually let's gear over to UK politics over here while he's going AFK. So, in UK elections at the moment, you have 4 parties running, and you have 5 parties running, and you have 2 independents, I believe. So the main thing about UK politics at the moment in the UK election is it's kind of up in the air at the moment. Who's going to form a government? Like, who are you predicting is going to form a government? Who do you think is going to win? Just out of the 5
Honestly,
parties
from the
running, 2 independents.
Yeah, honestly, I think the independents are irrelevant at this point. There's really no support that, from what I can see, that they have. But I think from what I've seen, will be the Labour Party. But I haven't. Maclean's mostly focuses on internal news and internal broadcasting and media. So honestly, I haven't really kept up with it. But from what I can see at this point, it is definitely going to be a liberal or a Labour victory at this point.
And I can see where you're coming from there. I obviously was in UK politics for quite a very long time.
Yeah.
And from what I saw there, the main issue in the UK is not so much that they don't have enough new faces, it's the fact that they're not stable in terms of politics. Like, you'll have one government come along once in a while that's going to be completely good, it's going to be one of the best governments you've seen, but then you're going to be stuck by a string of bad governments. You saw happen. Now, when you look at the Prime Minister before Monty, you had Daniel Wickers, obviously. He was a pretty average Prime Minister. I wasn't a fan of his media policy and his non-intervention policy, but he wasn't as bad as Monty was. He tried to keep the Commonwealth alive, he tried to keep foreign affairs alive. Then you had Monty come in, and he absolutely wrecked foreign affairs. You know, because we were both around for this. Canada left the Commonwealth. It's still struggling of relations with the UK. And all these other things happened. What really happened, the next government, no matter who it is, it's going to be important. Because if UKIP wins again, which is highly unlikely at the moment, it's gonna result in some interesting kinds of foreign relations in the Commonwealth as a whole. Because we've seen anti-Commonwealth sentiment in New Zealand, we've seen anti-Commonwealth sentiment in Canada as well. So it's really going to be interesting on the next government. It's either going to be LUP or Labour. It's all depending on really who does the coalitions, who gets the confidence, who wins the most seats. And I'm personally predicting Labour too, but I have a feeling the LUP could have a ton of votes. They could have the silent majority advantage here, because Labour support has been very vocal.
Yeah, and like you said, one, you'll have some pretty good governments, and then you'll have horrible governments, and I think that's the same thing in real life. Like, then there's going to be these presidencies, like in the United States, that really stand out from all the others, and then there's these governments that didn't really do anything effective, or were just plagued by irrelevant situations that they got stuck in. But also, it's going to be very important that the people see past just what has happened that is flashy and has been in the news, but also things that have been important that have happened during the administration of that government. Like you said, we just had the Prime Minister Monty, who just went out of office. In fact, I'm still in prison because of him, because war crimes or something. And
sorry to interrupt you here, but the thing about Monty was, there was a plot going on. I knew about this in advance, but there was a plot going on from people like Ryan J. Major and Theo Kingston, who wanted to oust him for their own personal gains. The Conservative Party thought they were going to be able to renegotiate a coalition, get more cabinet positions, get more overall power, get more overall leverage and power over the government. But then we saw how that happened. We saw that it ended in Monty resigning, calling an early election, and now we're left in our current situation, whereas an election wouldn't have been called until, I want to say, June or August, coincided with Canadian elections. So, overall, UK politics at the moment is just like a realm it's, if you want me to describe it, it's just unstable at the moment. You need a strong and stable government for the national interest, and not one who runs through the fields of wheat.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm gonna hand this back. I'm gonna ask, okay, George, you back yet?
Yeah.
George. Alright, so unmute your mic. Let's get back to EUSA here, because EUSA is going to be the election that's going to come first. Let's try and talk about it more. So results are coming out at about midnight tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So based on all the poll, what's the general feeling inside the Patrick Russo campaign, the Russo campaign at the moment? How are they looking towards the future?
I think that Patrick, I don't think that LDU has won the majority of the polls. However, I don't think that a lot of people within the group actively participate in them as much as advertised that they do. I wouldn't necessarily gauge polling as a consensus as to how this election is going to end. If it was, LDU would be winning by double digits, but I think it's going to be much closer than a lot of people think it will be, at least in my opinion.
Right, I can fully understand your point there. So shifting back to UK politics, I want to get your opinion here. So UK politics, obviously a very interesting field lately. Which party do you see winning? Which party do you see trying to form government?
Personally, I think from what I have observed, I think that the Labour Party will probably be the one with the best opportunity to form a government. Just to kind of touch on what Odin said, a lot of these, or I believe it was either yourself or Odin, that said that a lot of these faces within the UK that are leading the two major parties of the current moment, LUP and Labour, are both particularly faces that a lot of people know. They're more of establishment figures. However, I think the Labour Party will pull ahead of LUP, seeing, with no disrespect, that a lot of the members of the LUP are people who left the Tory party during the process in which Jack Clark did not win the leadership election. They defected. I just think that the party, the Liberal Unionist Party, is a party of basically people of very diverse backgrounds coming together and trying to group each other. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I can understand what you're trying to say, and really touching on the Labour Party and LUP. Like, let me go to their Twitter page real quick. Let me break down their cabinet for you because I can recognize most of these faces. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and break down the manifestos of each party, and we're gonna start with the Labour Party. If I can find the manifesto, give me a second. Until then, I'm gonna ask you a question in the meanwhile until I find their manifesto. What do you think? Where do you see EUSA going in the future if if LDU becomes president? Where do you see the country going?
If I think LDU. I've known LDU for a long time. I've worked with him closely for a long period of time. But I think that the biggest issue with LDU is he brings a lot of uncertainty to the entire process. I think that if he won the election, that a lot of the future of the group would be very uncertain. Just from personal interactions with him, he's very, he can be very hot-tempered whenever he is upset about something. I've had numerous occasions in which he has swore me out after I have dissented his opinions and things. So I think, I don't necessarily think that LDU would be an awful president. I just think that he would bring a lot of uncertainty to the future of the group.
Right. So I have the Labor Manifesto pulled up right now. So I'm gonna skip straight down to see who's in government, who's who. One second, I need to find their cabinet list. Alright, so first off, we're going down to Prime Minister candidate. We have Tentacles. And he himself, he's experienced, he has his pros, he has his cons, but he's arguably one of the best candidates for the election. And then we're going down to the Deputy Leader, First Secretary of State, and Chancellor Sanguisfern, who,
Yes.
in the past, he was the former Liberal Democrats leader. I just don't see him. I just don't see him. I don't see him being a good chancellor.
I don't I have experience within the UK. Whenever James Reed was the prime minister there, and I was there in the past. I haven't been very active in it. I'm not very knowledgeable of Mr. Farron, but I have heard his name brought up a couple of times during the process, that if he would have won the leadership of the Labour Party, probably wouldn't be in the contention that it is in right now under Tentacles to win the election.
Yeah, and I fully see where you're coming from there. So, from the looks of this list I've just been given, so we're going down to the Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs, which is
probably Tormentium, if I'm not mistaken.
no, it's Connor Novak actually. The thing about Novak is Novak has had an interesting past in the UK. In positions he was in, he fell inactive. It really all depends. Because it depends on his first performance, it depends on how active he is how effective is he going to be if he gets in cabinet.
I've actually had I used to have a very close friendship with Mr. Novak, and I've worked with him in the past. He was the Prime Minister of Australia whenever I led the group, and he also led the Tory party and was a part of several ventures that I myself took part in. And I think that Mr. Novak is a genuinely good person, but I don't think necessarily that he brings a lot of stability to the realm of foreign affairs, seeing that he if he seems to lose interest in something, he just up and resigns and then goes elsewhere or goes inactive. So I think that's definitely a major concern that the Labour Party is going to end up having whenever all is said and done during this process.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from here, but so now we're going down to the Secretary of State for the Home Office, who is Majestic Goku 664. Now this is a person I've worked with closely for a few months now, and he's actually in my cabinet in Canada. So that's my main concern with the fact that Labour has him on.
And all.
But he's a good person to work with. He's a good candidate. The only problem is he's serving in cabinet in another nation. I can fully understand why he put him there, and I know he's a replacement lined up if Majestic resigns, so he can continue to serve in Canada. And overall, both picks for it are very good. Like, they're just... Yeah, because the Minister of State for Police and Security, who's going to take over if Majestic goes, is Georgie. And you know Georgie, he has a nice background in it. He's experienced. He'll work well. He'll be able to do good. So, now we're going down to the Secretary of State for Justice and Lord Chancellor, which is Consilium. Not sure if I pronounced that right, but he has a heavy background in justice. He has a lot of experience in that area. I think that he'd do good in the position. But it really, everything in this, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter how good you can be. What matters is your activity. And if none of them are active, then we're gonna end up in this position where you have a shitty cabinet, you have a shitty government, and you're just not going to get any legislation passed, and you're going to get a vote of no confidence against you, like Monty did.
I think that, just speaking from personal experience, the biggest concern that I would have with the Labour Party under the leadership of Tentacles. As I was kind of in the UK during the time where Tentacles and Tormentium were back and forth. One was leader, one was something else, one was leader. And there was that time where they would be prime minister and then they would be in opposition. And I've seen the style in which they lead parties, and I definitely think that if they win the election and if they want to stay in power and they want to be effective, that they're going to have to keep up activity, like you have said, because that was definitely an issue with previous governments in which Tentacles and Tormentium, people within the Labor Party, have led. Is they have a decent start off and then they do a nosedive towards the end of the term.
I mean, I can absolutely fully understand when you're coming from there, because I actually worked under him as his Secretary of State for Media, Culture, and Sports when he won a Labour minority government the last time. And this was when, this was during a time where the government, I don't think we finished out, we did finish out our entire term, actually. We were one of the only governments at the time to finish out our entire term. The thing about them is, Tormentium is still in the cabinet, because he is the Secretary of State for Media, Culture, and Sport. Now, what he does in that position is up to him, because it's a position where you can either do nothing or you can do something. And when you look at their cabinet is overall pretty solid, it's pretty good. But it's definitely better compared to the other parties, especially if you look at a party like the Liberal Party, which is a minority party. They're gonna be a minority party because they just don't have enough support. They're just made up of a bunch of ex-members of the Liberal Democrats.
See, what I find interesting is, in my opinion, whenever nothing against Jamie, but I think whenever Jamie runs for an election, you see all of these parties pop up to run in the election. I don't think that there's been this much party activity since, I believe, either the beginning of 2016 or sometime in 2015.
It was, if I can remember correctly, it was the election in which the Distinguished Party ran, and it was the only election in which they ran. They barely filled the seats, and they were inactive. And that was the election where it was a rainbow parliament. No party had a solid majority at that time. And I can't remember which party actually prevailed in that. It may have been the Conservative Party, it may have been the Royalists, may have been the whatever party. I can't remember.
There was like a 3 to 4 party coalition government, and it was chaotic. If I remember correctly.
Alright, well, Odin, can you step in here? Let me get your opinion on this. So I'm gonna have you give your opinion on the next pick. Their chief whip in the House of Commons. Actually, no. Let's do Minister of State for Commonwealth Affairs, who's somebody you know, which is Andrew.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a second. You can continue speaking.
Right. So we're gonna take a quick break, real quick, and when we come back, we're gonna continue with the live stream. But until then, enjoy.
Alright, I'm back. So let's go back. Andrew, he is their candidate for Minister of State for Commonwealth Affairs, obviously. Now, obviously, well, you know, at the moment, he's Governor General and he's owner of Canada. It's really a question of legality in their cabinet picks. If some of them can actually be cabinet. Because it's also a question of ethical standards here. Because I don't think having the owner of Canada and the Governor General of Canada in your cabinet is really ethical. Really ethical or legal. he's a very good pick, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it. Like, what do you think here?
Well, well, honestly, I think it's legal, and I think in it's technically ethical, but it's a question of whether or not he'll be able to be effective in either of the offices um, when he is the when he's appointed to the cabinet.
Mm,
Because just there's you usually see these people who have several positions in row nations, and this isn't indicative in it of like of Andrew Hall, but a lot of these people do it for the influence and the power. I don't think that's what Andrew Hall is doing. I'm just stating facts. But when you see this, you usually see people who aren't effective. And I think that if Andrew Hall, who is very good at being effective, um, is effective in both offices of the offices of government general and the office of in his cabinet office, then I don't see why it shouldn't be a it should be a problem because I think it's really up to the British people at this point to decide whether or not they want him to be in the cabinet or not. So if the British people think that he'll be able to be effective, and I believe the British people are very much informed of the current situation of him being Governor General, and if they've read into the manifesto and the cabinet listings of the Labour Party, then it should be easy for them to know that, or it should be implied to themselves that he would be in both offices at the same time, both of which are part of the Commonwealth or will be part of the Commonwealth, depending on the current situation in Canada or the future situation in Canada concerning foreign affairs. Then, if they think he's going to be effective, then I don't see why not everyone else in the community or the British government or whoever that's going to should be supportive of that.
and I can fully understand where you're coming from. So what we're gonna do now is we've covered up the Labour cabinet. We've next after we do this, we're gonna go over our manifesto. But what I want to do right now is I want to take some questions from viewers. I want to take a small break from reading over UK elections and manifestos, and let's take some questions from the viewers. Let me type that in the chat real quick. And now let's wait for some questions.
There's a slight delay.
I know, that's why I typed it in the chat. Alright, so the first real question, Odin, is for you, and it's from Vince Meekman. And he's saying, Odin, who do you think will win USA and UK elections?
In USA, from what I've seen, or from what we've heard so far from Senator George Kane of Virginia, USA, from what I can see, I haven't really looked at many of the polls. I know CNN just did a poll, but it hasn't finished. I think that Russo has the best chance in USA. I'm not supporting anyone, obviously, but I do think that his campaign has been more. It's been less. It's been more developed in a short period of time, and I think that his opponents had it started when Conrad Green was first elected, so he's been campaigning for a very long time. But I don't think that he's developed a lot of his strict, concrete policies. But uh, yeah, so I think Roos is going to win. And in the UK, from what I can see, I'm not sure if Labour is going to get a majority government, but I do certainly believe with absolute confidence in my decision that Labour will win the UK and the UK elections, and I really don't think there's a lot of question about that. It's only a question of whether or not they will get a majority and be screwed over by some of the independents and other smaller parties, or whether or not they'll just get a full-out majority.
I have to agree with you on both points. And our next question is... One second. Okay, so opinion on recent labor issues, i.e. exploit allegations. So I think this is mainly to do with One Blood and him exploiting, well, or supposedly exploiting the VA after. I really don't have a personal care for it, but that's just me. What do you think? What's your opinion?
I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't think there's a lot of structure to the arguments either. So honestly, I just think we should move on.
Yeah. See, if he did it, then that's obviously illegal. He should be punished for it. But if he didn't do it, and there's no proof, then I don't really give a shit. Right. So next question is, what do you think of Lord Galactica? His choice to run for PM. Well, he's obviously running for Prime Minister himself. So I'm not sure what the point of that question is, but hey.
Yeah, but I mean, he definitely has the experience, if anything.
It's really so much of a question of, is it the right type of experience?
Yeah, I guess that's also true, but he's a well-known name in the British public, which definitely gives him a somewhat chance. He's definitely going to be leader of the opposition, if anything. But honestly, I think that with name recognition and sort of being up there with being buddy-buddy with most politicians in the United Kingdom, I think that he'll do well, if anything. Might not be the best, but he'll definitely do well.
Yeah, I can understand what you're talking about there. So, looks like we don't have any more questions at the moment. So, that would be it in the question segment for now. We'll go back to it later. So, let's get back to what we're talking about, parties. So, let's talk about the Conservative Party real quick. Conservative Party, we're going to have the leader on there to do an interview. Looks like he's not online at the moment. Maybe he'll be online later so we can do an interview. But, you see, the main the Conservative Party is... Oh, wait, 1 second, actually. Well, okay, so the thing with the Conservative Party is they have a vote penalty applied to them. And the vote penalty is going to affect how many seats they have. So they could theoretically, it probably won't happen, they could theoretically win a majority, but if it's close enough, they could be pushed. Well, no, they could win more seats, they could win the most seats, but they could theoretically be pushed out of it by the fact that they're getting a vote penalty. So that's the thing. The Conservative Party, I just don't see them winning even. It could win third party, but that depends on how badly UKIP collapses.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree with everything you just said there. So, I guess, to be honest, we'll just have to wait and see at this point, because we can't tell. But there is no recovery for UK. It's, after Monty Moore, it's fucked. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It'll be, but I don't know if the vote penalty is going to have anything to do with the outcome of the election. So, yeah.
So, let's speak about some other issues. What was I going to talk about? So, at the moment, I'm going to go ahead. So, let's look at, I'm going to check some international events right now. So, at the moment, you're seeing some interesting international issues. So, we have some interesting international issues at the moment. For example, I forget which nation it was. I think it was... If I can let me check for 1 second, it was... Oh, it was Ukraine who cut all communications with France. So Ukraine is in an interesting position at the moment on the world stage and on the world stage and on internet and anything else, because they're cutting off relations with people. They're basically getting cucked by Russia, to put it in terms. I mean, that's kind of off topic. Let's get back on topic. UK elections. So, Odin.
Yep.
So, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna Nah, wait. So what's your opinion here overall on everything that's happened recently from the UK? What do you think of the election? What do you think of the election? What do you think of just what's happening?
Well, I see not a lot of publicity on Twitter or any other social media websites about the election, other than from the parties and the candidates. I mean, BBC has really not been reporting anything to do with the elections, and if they have, they haven't been doing it very recently or very consistently. So honestly, I don't really know what to make of it. I think that it's kind of a general, just a normal election that we don't see very often. There's not a lot that's going on in the UK election. I think that most eyes are actually on the USA election at this point.
Right, I can completely understand what you're going through here. So let's go back. Let's go back and let's go talk about the other parties here, because there's obviously a lot of issues within parties like UKIP, and let's go over their manifesto. Let's go over their cabinet. Let's go over their manifesto, and let's really pick it apart and let's see what's going on with them. Because we haven't heard a lot from UKIP ever since they've been out of government, and ever since Ryan J. Major left them.
Yeah.
So from the looks of their Twitter, it's basically just a meme at this point. Manifesto is in the same format it was last election, and it's really just kind of the same. So let's go down to their cabinet. So their chancellor is Johnny Falcone. He is yeah. What do you think about Pick? Because you've heard a lot about Johnny.
I don't even know who he is. No, I have not.
Oh, I thought you had. So my opinion of Johnny is he's a former Speaker of the House of Commons, but putting him as Chancellor, I don't get why you put him as Chancellor. Out of all positions, you could have put Johnny Falcone in. Why you put him in Chancellor? He has no experience in business, no experience in that general area, as far as I know. So, on to the next, with the Minister of State for Business, Cuban Libre. Now, Cuban isn't much better, but he definitely would have been a better Chancellor pick than Johnny. Because Johnny he's more focused on the BF. So if you wanted to get if you wanted to reintroduce the position of defense, yeah, you're going to get Johnny in there, because Johnny knows about the BF, he knows about the Army. But, no. So let's go on to Secretary of State for the Home Department, which is Adam 1717. Now, this is a pick that I'm kind of on, because Adam is a good developer, he's a good person, but it's all a matter of, is he prepared to be Home Secretary? Because he's been a developer for so long now, is he prepared? Like, what are you saying about that?
Prepared, yeah.
Is he political? Because he hasn't been in
Honestly,
politics for a long time.
We see this a lot in the Row Nation community. You see this with several nations. And I guess we kind of see this on a smaller scale, if you will, with UKIP. Because in sometimes nations that are losing activity and losing members, they'll resort to anybody that they can put in to have an effective government, an effective democratic government. And they'll start bringing in developers, and they'll start putting them in positions of power. Now, in UKIP, I guess what they're doing is not enough people want to go and join UKIP, join their shadow cabinet, shadow government. So what UKIP is doing is bringing in people who won't necessarily be effective, and are just taking in developers and people who aren't very politically experienced. So it's basically what's happening in these smaller nations, but on a smaller scale, with this political party in the United Kingdom. And with the Johnny for pick of the Chancellor, I think what could be happening there is...
Well, according to the chat right now, he is former Chancellor, so I was wrong there earlier, but from the looks of it, he could have experience. If he'll be good in it, it's really debatable. So let's go on to our next pick. Minister of State for Policing and Criminal Justice. Now this one is an ironic one because it's Mark Raymond, and if I'm not wrong, Mark Raymond is still in prison in the UK. So the Minister of State for Policing and Criminal Justice. He's by no means a bad pick. He is a good pick. But I would have recommended him more for a foreign affairs oriented position rather than Minister of State for Policing and Criminal Justice. Especially considering the fact it's basically hypocritical because he's in prison right now.
I take offense because I'm in prison at the current moment. But honestly,
I'm not even in the UK.
What?
I'm not even in the UK at the moment. I've just been involved in like the labor chat.
Oh. Well, I think that despite him being in prison, which I don't think was because of the war with Canada, I think it probably had something else to him doing with breaking the law. But even just in Canada, you see federal judges who are used to be criminals. We don't really have mandatory sentencing laws or mandatory minimum laws in any row nation, from what I can tell, other than North Korea or the DPRK. So honestly, I don't think that it's possible that since we don't have mandatory minimum laws, you could be in there for something that.
Well, if I remember correctly, sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
I think his sentence was a few weeks, maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Oh, according to him, he's not in prison.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could swear he said he's in prison. Alright.
Alright.
He's not in prison.
If he is in prison.
Whatever.
No? Okay.
Whatever. I mean, keeping that aside, he's still a good pick. I would have chosen him for more foreign affairs oriented position though. So going down. Now, let's go down to their Secretary of State for Justice, who is Frank Valente. Yeah, I've heard much about him, and according to other people, I don't know much about him personally, but I heard he's really shit. Maybe George,
Well,
you think
I don't know
George?
anything about him, so I'm not gonna.
George, you think you can contribute here? What's
I have
who's
no
Frank?
idea, no idea who he is.
Anything to contribute on whom?
Frank Valente.
I have
Frank
no clue
Valente.
who he is.
Well, according to the
So
UKIP.
obviously he's not a well-known name here.
Well, according to the UKIP manifesto, he served as an associate justice at the Supreme Court in EUSA.
I've been in EUSA forever, and I don't think I've ever heard of him.
That's not going to be a good thing for UKIP.
Douglas,
They
do you
don't
know
have
him?
name recognition.
I mean, does he have previous usernames? I mean,
I can check that right now. But Doug, do you know him? Do you know who he is? Very riveting. Thank you. Frank Valente, I'm asking you to speak. Jesus. Forget that then. Fucking idiot. So let's get back to covering UKIP cabinet. So at the moment we're on justice at the moment, and we're going down a summary of the UKIP team. So their party leader is the Right Honourable Spaceman 2003.
Spaceman?
Yeah, Spaceman 2003.
He,
I know him from the comments. I think he was a front bencher in UKIP. That's about it. So, okay, let's go down and actually read parts of the UKIP manifesto. Then we're gonna go on break. So here we're gonna go on like a 15 minute break. But okay, the first one reads: Britain's role in NATO. What do you guys think of NATO? Because it's an organization that's been very inactive lately. It just hasn't proved its worth. It hasn't held meetings, and that's why Canada. That's why I've chosen as Prime Minister not to propose any legislation to join it, not to propose anything to join it, because I just don't view it as something worthwhile. Do you guys have any opinion on that? On NATO as a whole?
I think the only time I would ever agree with Donald Trump on a video game is NATO is obsolete on Roblox, in my opinion. It doesn't really serve a
It is at this point, I agree.
Because the only thing NATO is really useful for is war, and the problem with triggering the article for war and all that is that it's Roblox. Like, you can't force a nation into war. There's no strong diplomatic ties.
Yeah.
And that's what I can say about that. So, I think the UK should pull out of NATO on here, because it's just not really useful anymore. It's just not worthwhile.
No. If NATO is revived, we keep seeing NATO is being revived, but honestly, you keep seeing new NATOs coming in, and they had to be good, because they always bring this promise of, we're going to be more effective than the last NATO. But if you're going to make those promises, you have to keep those promises, not during the beginning when you're NATO, and at the ending where you're being threatened by another NATO. That's not how it's supposed to work, because then there's that big span in the middle where you're not being effective and you're not doing anything.
Yeah, I can completely understand what you mean there, because overall, looking at it, NATO just not worthwhile. So before we go on break, I'm gonna ask some more. I'm gonna get into the questions segment, and then we're gonna go on break again.
Yep.
Right, so from the looks of it, we have a few questions. Alright, so who does George think will win a majority in the EUSA House of Representatives?
Just from the experience of the group in its entirety, I don't think the Republican Party has been very active, other than the handful of representatives that they currently have. I think that the Democratic Party will win a majority in the House of Representatives in the USA.
Okay, so what's your opinion about the African Union? Don't care. Could you review the MP candidates for UKIP? We already reviewed Cabinet. Maybe when we come back... Yeah, we just reviewed Cabinet. Maybe when we come back, we'll start reviewing the MP candidates. Well, we can't find them, but...
We probably will. We won't have much to talk about after this.
And when we do, we'll find something. Who do you believe has the best foreign team in the UK? I'm saying Labour. Labour has the most experienced foreign team, so that's all I can say about that. Anyhow,
Go Labour.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn between Tories and Labour, but if I had to choose at the immediate moment, I would go Labour.
I don't know why you wait. Who does Tories have again as their foreign secretary?
What?
Who do the Conservative Party have again as their foreign secretary?
Probably James Varadkar.
No, not James Varadkar.
Was it James?
No, it wasn't James.
Sure it is
I
James
can
Varadkar.
check you right now. I'll check you right now, 1 second. And then we're gonna go on break. Oh, this Twitter is a cesspool of cancer. Alright, here's our manifesto. Let's pull it up. Alright, it is James Rackus. Yeah, you were right there. Alright, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go on break, and we're gonna give a rest. Switching the
When we
screens
come
now.
back, we're gonna.
When we come back, we're gonna try and get some people to interview. We're gonna try and get some other stuff going. Talk more about EUSA
And we're gonna go to
elections.
Rito Hall to see the.
No, we aren't. No, we aren't.
We're not.
We're not.
Well, okay.
Welcome back to the stream. We've now come off break, and we're now back talking about politics. With us, we have Douglas MacLeod, George Kane, and Odin Fryer. Doug, you want to say a few words? Why are you even in the stream?
Hi. Why do I have to, apparently have to talk? I accidentally muted my mic, don't ask.
Just say a few words, man.
About what?
Anything. What do you want to say?
I'm Douglas.
Odin, kick him out of his stream.
Oh, wow. Not even giving me something to talk about.
Right.
There's stuff to talk about, and I will talk.
Talk about the UK election or the medal ceremony in Canada.
Who do you think's gonna? Who do you think's gonna? Okay, what do you think of the medal ceremony going on at the moment?
It's bullshit because two people who've had a coup are getting medals, and one of them's getting the highest decoration that can be bestowed upon a Canadian Armed Forces member.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean. That Cannon doesn't deserve. Who gave Cannon the medal
Cannon doesn't
exactly?
deserve it because he held a coup d'état within Canada. So, like...
Who gave Cannon the medal? That's my question.
The king. Only the king can... The king, under recommendation, Governor General can give a Canadian Victoria Cross.
He should have that medal revoked.
Yeah, he should. Could have it stripped away by the Governor General, technically.
I'm gonna ask Ace to strip it away, or I'm gonna resign. Let's get back to
Is Cannon in
politics.
attendance?
Nope, he's not. He doesn't even care enough.
What other medals are being given out, or whatever awards are being given out?
Yeah, let's get off this topic. It's probably pretty boring for the viewers, but
It's actually boring. Medal ceremony.
Right, so let's go back to talking about UK politics. So what we're going to do now is, we're going to go to UK. Actually, no, we're going to go to the Conservative Party, and we're going to read their manifesto. We're going to really just describe their manifesto, what it's doing, and more. So, one moment. So the Conservative Manifesto is following the same format as the last election, following the same general feel, but the main difference between this manifesto and the last manifesto is the lack of detail in this one, the lack of paragraphs, the lack of really any thought or care in it.
Does it look professional?
It looks professional. It looks nice. It just doesn't have a lot of information in it about how it. Let me give you an example. So this is their foreign Commonwealth policy. It's my main problem with the manifesto is good ideas, but they're just talking points and not how you accomplish things.
Guess, but some could argue that's better than just all the inspirational speeches and all that. Maybe they thought, or their mental state was to, or the mental idea was to just get right to the point. You don't need all the copy-changey stuff. You just need to get right to the point. Here's what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it.
I see what you mean there.
But also, I think they probably are pretty tired, pretty worn out. Probably don't have as much inspiration and hope after having to Monty Moore, because honestly, there's no way they can win. But and if they do, I'll be completely surprised. But there's no way they can win. So I don't think I think they knew that going into the election, that there was no way they were going to win. So they kind of just pieced together a manifesto, tried to gain a couple seats in Parliament, go for the next election.
One moment. Alright, so let's get back to what we were talking about here. So, we're talking about UK elections, we're talking about EUSA elections, and we're going to start reviewing MP candidates, and we're going to start with Labour. 1 second, I'll tell you something. So let me pull out the Labour. We're going on the Labour MP list and Labour cabinet list. So they're backbenchers. Okay, Municipal 1 is a Labour backbencher. Okay, fairly solid pick. He has a good attendance record. Captain P, not a good pick. He's inactive. L. Campbell, he's gonna be active, but Pelicanator, not sure about him. Lorenzo Luzzi, I could swear he defected, but and Mr. R, I saw him earlier. Overall, their cabinet list, their MP list. The main problem is it's solid, but most of their picks are probably going to be inactive in government if they win.
Yeah, honestly, I think both you, I, and pretty much all our guests here are aware that, you know, MP candidates, those are just who you get to fill your seats in the House. They don't need to be good. All they need to do is vote with you or vote with the party leader, party ideology. I think it'd be nice if these parties could find people who truly believe in their ideology and want to be their enemies. But honestly, I just don't have enough confidence in the parties or any party in any country, really, to try to do that.
Alright, 1 second.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get back to what we're talking. I'm gonna try and get some guests on, okay, so I'm gonna try and get some guests on. Oh, you just give your opinion on this. You've seen all the parties so far. Do you think your opinion has been swayed by any of what we said so far, or no?
Well, to be honest, I think as a reporter and as a member of the Canadian government, my opinion is in some way irrelevant to the conversation, but I guess it kind of has. I mean, at the beginning, I was not a fan of the Conservatives, but their cabinet picks, the way they describe the cabinet picks, we haven't looked at their MPs yet, but I don't know. When we do, my opinion will maybe also be changed. But from what I can see, I think that their choice for Secretary of State for James Backus is somebody I've gotten to know pretty well. He's professional when he needs to be. He has a lot of connections, and I think that'll do good for the United Kingdom. But, so I think at this point, before I was kind of in between Labour and Conservative, but at this point, I think I'm kind of split in between the middle, to be honest.
So you're basically saying at first you were in between Labour and Conservative, but now you're in the middle. So you started split between
Labour and Conservative. I was leaning to Labour more than Conservative, but now I think that I'm smack in the middle at this point.
Well,
Not that
the
I
main
think Conservatives are gonna win the majority. I certainly don't think that. I think that Labour are gonna win the majority. But in terms of who I support, I'm stuck in the middle at this point. We'll see if that changes by the end of the night.
I completely understand. So British elections are going to end tomorrow.
Yeah.
Going to end tomorrow, and we're going to see U.S. elections are ending at midnight tonight. So we'll get to see what happens, and yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about some other issues here. So EUSA elections, we talked about how they've had a bunch of issues already. Not a bunch of. There were 2 establishment candidates. The candidates with their own issues, and let me see if I can get one of them on here. Trying to get one on. In the meantime, do you have anything you want to talk about?
that at some point we are going to read newsreels of the international news of today and tomorrow and yesterday. But as of right now, no, I don't have anything to say.
So, no, continue with what you're saying.
No. All right. Well, I guess I can start the international newsreels now.
Yeah, let's go to you for some international news. I'm gonna go ahead and go try and get some people. You cover some international news, and you talk about all that.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna start with pretty much the beginning of the week. We're gonna start with the 21st, and on the 21st, in Helsinki, the Finnish government are outraged at the other fake 55 members. Finland, which somehow made it into the UN, have stolen the thumbnails for its games. The Finnish government urges its allies and friends to back the true and real Finland and condemn the other fake Finland. Out of Bulgaria, some news on the war with Norway. The Bulgarian forces on the 21st beat the Norwegian forces, and which now leaves the score 1-0 for Bulgaria's favor. Out of Tripoli, Libya, after tonight's terror attack in the capital city of Tripoli, liberal SIS are undergoing an investigation leading to the attacks. There has not been any news on that since, so we're left to assume that they're still under investigation. In Tibet, news of the Dalai Lama being imprisoned, along with the pension Lama, the entire cabinet and parliament by Korean president, um, by who self-appointed him Dalai Lama 4 months back. The current Dalai Lama has been threatened that Tibet would be sold if he did not follow the Korean president's orders of city development. The new Tibet has been created. No more news on that. Um, mhm. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Republic of Korea or South Korea. Gongchong Training Camp has been released in the the Republic of Korea Armed Forces Games. It is now fully operational, to my understanding. Out of New Delhi, India, the president Aiden has shifted focus on reforming of the cabinet and judiciary branch, allowing for more cohesive government structure. These positions will all be filled very soon. More to come in the coming weeks. Breaking news: the Republic of Montenegro has declared a state of emergency after large-scale protests have turned into a civil war between the government of Montenegro and Zelensky, a rebel group that has made death threats to the president and has illegally constructed a roadblock in Zabeljak. More information can be read on the AP Discord chat. And more one final newsreel out of the Republic of Korea. The Republic of Korea has received a T-880U from the EDT. Alongside this, the K-21 is expected to be put into operation today, and that was today at 11:39 a.m. I believe Central Standard Time, but I could be wrong. And that's all of the international news from the 21st onward. So let's just describe for the viewers what a vote penalty is. I don't think it's gonna. Well, I think it's gonna have. I don't know what the percentage penalty is being taken off, but I assume that it's going to be somewhat. There's, like I said earlier, there's no way they're going to be winning a majority government, but I still think that they'll be able to float as the opposition party. But we still don't know, and I guess we'll, like I said earlier, we don't know how effective or how much of a disadvantage the vote penalty is going to be until, until it's time.
I can certainly understand where you're coming from here. So, shifting back to pace here, I think we mostly finished up on UK and EUSA elections for now. So, what do you want to do?
Well, we don't have much to talk about at the moment. You can see if there's any questions left from the audience, and then after that,
We should just end the stream at this point. 24 hours is unrealistic.
Yeah.
Alright, that's just us.
Just do questions and be back at like 12.
Yeah, we'd be back to cover USA election results.
Yeah. Alright, well, we'll be back at what, 11?
Yeah, we'd be back an hour before.
Alrighty. Take questions for the audience, and that'll be it.
Alright, we have our first question here. Would you fuck Lana's brains out?
What?
Would you fuck Lana's brains out?
Lana?
Isn't that Marine? Who is that? Isn't that the former? That's the former French president. I wouldn't know. I haven't seen a photo of her. Oh, that's her.
I think it is the current.
Ah, you know what? Yeah.
Wait, who is it? What's her Roblox name?
Let me send you. I'll put a photo in the chat that Mark just gave me.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I'd say yeah.
Yeah, probably would smash.
Alright, so here's the next.
Hey Odin, smash or pass, Chris?
Kill yourself. Alright, so here we go. Next question is, what do you think of the Brackus versus Brackus? I personally don't give a shit. British Sovereign. Would you rather have Lawrence Windsor's UK or British Sovereigns? Obviously British Sovereigns. Lawrence Windsor's, it's just a ripoff.
Oh, fuck.
Probably William over James, just because he's a Labour supporter. You know, I'm just gonna go on a little rant here. France is shit. Like, the country of France is so shit right now.
Has it ever been good though?
On ROBLOX? No.
Actually, I used to be in it a long time ago and it was okay. It was on like Joker, I think. Something like that. I really don't remember. Too long ago.
Hmm. Well, mostly finished up here. Any other questions before we go?
Um,
Eh,
I like Marine Le Pen's
I don't know.
suit more.
I kind of like swords more. I could see Marine.
I've really
They're
seen swords.
they're both good, but I think swords is kind of full of Nusa kids.
No.
What the fuck is a monster munch? Monster munch.
I'm not sure. Who will win the USA
What
Senate
a
race?
monster
Is the Senate-
munch. What country
the
do you
Senate
live
having
in?
elections right now? I thought those weren't.
Actually, let's stay on. What a monster munch. What type of chip is this? Who eats these? Do you enjoy?
Senate, House, and President. That's fucking just crazy.
What's a Walker's crisp? It's obviously a chip. Never heard of a Walker's crisp. Is it like Lay's but in the UK? What?
they're making a new Godzilla.
That's garbage. It's worth noting I've gotten barely any sleep. This stream has devolved into Monster Munch crisps, and I don't give a shit.
We should probably end.
Now, before we go, I think we need to talk about Monster Munch.
I mean, you think? What did you just say?
I think we need to talk about Monster Munch before we go.
It's Monster Munch.
That's a good question.
What the fuck is a Monster Munch? That's a good question. I looked it up. They're rated 4.6 on Amazon, so they can't be that bad.
Are they British?
I love how like we didn't talk about Canada in this entire live stream.
And we talked about the medal ceremony.
Yeah,
for
for like
a
10
second. That's
minutes.
because Canada's not doing anything to.
I put Monster
Well,
Munch.
I have a coup
2
d'etat.
hours from.
Hey George, when are we getting our answer? When are you getting results on House elections and Senate?
Clement said that within the next couple of hours. So usually what happens is before the voting closes around, I believe 9 or 10, James will release a document with voter tallies, and we'll start getting some live results sometime soon.
Wait, like now? Like you're talking about?
No, not until later this evening.
Alright, tell
5 hours.
Oh fuck.
me when results start coming in because we'll bring the live stream back up then.
Alright, I'll do so.
Alright, looks like we're gonna end the live stream.
Are you running for the seat in Virginia?
No, I'm already. My term doesn't. We have class selections, and then so half of the Senate is up for election this
Oh,
election, and the
okay.
other half's up next.
Okay, I understand. All right.
Love you all. What the fuck is that? Monster Munch? Jesus Christ.